The world watched in breathless anticipation as a new chapter in the history of the Catholic Church began. The announcement that came from the Vatican sent shockwaves around the globe, shaking the very foundations of one of the world's oldest and most influential institutions. Pope Luis Antonio Tagle, the first Asian pontiff in history, stood before millions, delivering a message that would change the course of the Catholic Church forever. The scene at St. Peter's Basilica was electric, as people from all walks of life, from every corner of the earth, gathered to witness this historic moment. This was not just any papal speech. It was a moment of profound significance, not just for the Catholic Church, but for the entire world. Tagle's election marked a seismic shift, not only in the leadership of the Church, but in its very identity. His words reverberated with the promise of a new era, one that would redefine the core values of Catholicism. As the first Asian pope, Tagle's rise to the papacy symbolized a bridge between the deep-rooted traditions of the Church and the modern world. His leadership promised to usher in a new age of inclusivity, compassion, and social justice. In his inaugural message, Pope Tagle set the tone for his papacy with a single powerful word: inclusivity. It wasn't just about a new policy or a simple change in direction. It was about a transformation of the Church's very soul. Tagle called on Catholics everywhere to embrace the marginalized, the forgotten, and those on the fringes of society. His words were not just a message of hope, but a direct challenge to the Church to live out the true teachings of Jesus Christ. He urged the faithful to act on their faith, not just with words, but with tangible acts of love and justice. This was a pope who saw the Church's role as more than just a spiritual institution. Pope Tagle's decree was a call to action, emphasizing the need for systemic change, especially in areas such as poverty and the environment. He declared that poverty was not just a societal issue, it was a sin to be eradicated. He spoke passionately about the need for the Church to take a more active role in fighting for environmental justice, particularly standing in solidarity with indigenous communities who are on the front lines of the climate crisis. Tagle's message wasn't just a moral imperative, it was a spiritual one. The Pope emphasized that the Church must divest from fossil fuels, take action to protect God's creation, and lead by example. But Pope Tagle's vision went beyond the environment and social justice. He called for the Church to be a truly welcoming place for all, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or background. He spoke about love and compassion as the central tenets of the Church's mission, highlighting the importance of dialogue and understanding. For many, his words were a sign of hope, a new dawn for those who had felt excluded or marginalized by the Church's past pronouncements. It was a sign that the Church was ready to listen and evolve. One of the most significant aspects of Pope Tagle's message was his focus on transforming the Church from within. He emphasized the need for greater transparency and accountability, particularly within the Vatican. He acknowledged the Church's history of sexual abuse scandals and vowed to address them with renewed vigor. The Pope promised that survivors' voices would be heard and that the Church would work tirelessly to prevent future abuse. This commitment to justice and healing was met with a mix of relief and optimism from many within the Church, especially those who had been advocating for change for years. The world's reaction to Pope Tagle's first papal command was mixed. Progressive Catholics, particularly those in the developing world, rejoiced. Here was a pope who understood their struggles, who spoke their language, and who offered a vision of a Church that was truly inclusive and just. World leaders, especially from developing nations, praised Tagle's bold vision and his commitment to the poor and marginalized. His call for environmental justice and social change resonated with many who had long seen the Church as an ally in the fight for a better world. Within the Vatican, however, reactions were more measured. Conservative cardinals expressed concern about the direction Tagle seemed intent on taking the Church. Some feared that his focus on social justice could come at the expense of traditional Catholic doctrine. These voices worried that the Church's teachings on issues such as abortion, same-sex marriage, and other moral matters might be compromised in favor of a more politically progressive agenda. The tension between progress and tradition was evident, and the debate over the future direction of the Church had only just begun. Pope Tagle's papacy did not come about in a vacuum. His election was the culmination of a series of events that had been set in motion years earlier with the Papax,